So as you'll notice, I've taken a little time to kind of develop my scene a little bit more. I've added a couple of new rock pieces here and chiseled those out. I actually changed this from the old rock because this looked a little bit more like larger rock chunks. I even used a mountain, an image of a mountain to get something over here. And you'll also see right here what I've done is I've gone through and taken pieces and sort of angled them a little bit. So what this is doing is it's going to hopefully help make this piece of ground not completely flat looking. So like as you'll see as we move into it, you got a little bit of lumps on the floor, and hopefully make that feel a little bit more like there's some depth in there. To continue on, I'm going to finish up this scene a little bit. I want to finish up my crate and my arm, and so how you do that is up to you. You're more than welcome to draw those out, but again, I actually already have some resources of that from when I was modeling these scenes. And so one of the things I did was I opened a render and I created a rendered image of that scene, and then I used this to generate some vector files. So let's try importing those. So I'm going to go File, Import Vector Files, and I'm going to call this one Crate. I'm just making new palettes for these so they're a little easier for me to understand what's going on here. Now I've pointed my menu to somewhere else, so let me go find that again. It's going to be under Rock 2D. I've made some resources here. I'll provide those for you as well if you'd like. And so if I select Crate and hit Open and hit OK, you're going to see it's going to bring in a vector crate for me. So I would just like to remind you though, like this is a drawing, right? This is just like the drawing I did to make Winslow. So if you're not happy with this, or you don't, you're welcome to draw something completely new, or you're welcome to use the existing colors to continue to draw on this piece, right? To use this as a starting piece, and maybe like what you want is just a little bit more definition of some lines here, right? So whatever it is that lets you kind of get a good start on this is what I'm going to use. So I have my crate. I'm going to do a little bit of work here because really this is just one panel of a crate. And so I'm going to go ahead and sort of turn this into a four-sided crate. I'm going to kind of rely on my perspective view over here a little bit. So I'm going to get my first panel here, and then I'm going to duplicate that. So I'm just going to go duplicate selected layer, and then I'll push that back some and do it again with this. Right click and say duplicate selected layer. And actually for all of these I want to make sure that I'm enabling 3D. There we go. So for this one I just created, that'll let me rotate it in the y-axis 90 degrees. And then I can also use my translates here to position it more precisely if I'd like. I'll do something like that, and then like this, just to kind of try to square it up a little bit. And then for crate 1, that'll give me a better guideline of how much further I need to scoot this back in z-axis. And then since this one is just across from where I need it, I'll go ahead and duplicate it too, and then I can just slide that in this axis over here. And so the problem with this is, if you're tumbling around, it looks paper thin. And so I'm not going to say that this is like a perfect solution by any means. But one of the things I could do to try to fix that is to give it just a little bit of depth on the top. So I'm going to take the one I have right now, duplicate it, and rotate it in the x-axis 90 degrees as well. Oh, it's already there. I actually want to do -90 so the words are spelled correctly. Go ahead and just sort of position this one and move this up to the top. And then again, just remember, this is just a drawing. So all I have to do now is go into the drawing of this, and I can just erase the parts I don't want. So let me get a better brush for this. So go to Tool Properties, maybe get something a little bit blockier. Oops, it's too big for sure. Yeah, something like this. And then I can click here and hold down Shift and drag this to start erasing the parts I don't want. I'm being a little sloppy with this. Actually, yeah, let me do a little bit of a better job at this. So if I click there, hold it and drag. There we go. And then I can just manually erase this in between. And what I should get now is a little bit of a feeling of a lip on the top. I'm actually make this a little bigger so it'll go a little faster. And there we go. So you'll notice now, as I tumble around here, it kind of feels like it has a top lip on it, right? So I'm going to use this as my crate. So I have these 4 crate pieces that are all here on this layer, right? And you can see them individually as I select them, right? And I don't want to have to move them all together. So again, I'm going to open up my node view, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time organizing some of this until my crate has a single peg that I can use to move that around. So the first thing you'll notice over here, a lot of this, I'm just going to manually sort out. Right? So I should have these 4 or 5 crate pieces. Right? I'm going to go from my first one, just Control P and make a peg, and then I'm going to try to position that somewhere over here, close to a reasonable pivot point for this entire unit. I'm not really being super exact with that, and then I'm just plugging these in, and so now what I have is a single peg that I can use to manipulate my entire box, and that includes scaling it down. I'm going to hold down Shift so it scales it together. Rotating it. I have to enable 3D on my object here too, my peg. And so this should, okay, because enable 3D was not enabled when I scaled this, I need to do that first. There we go. Now it's scaling it all together, and then I can position it all together, and I'm going to bring it out here a little bit off frame in the foreground here, and maybe even rotate it a little bit like this, just to give me an interesting view of this. Again, this is what we're actually going to see in our viewport here. And if you ever want to see like what this render will look like, if we click this flower here, this is what how the render will come out. Which is nice, but there's a couple of things I'm kind of noticing, that there's a lot of light and shadow information on this that is not on Winslow, that is not on our character. I'm also noticing little things like the black on the crate is much darker than the black anywhere else, right? And so I can make some subtle changes to this to make that better, right? Maybe go in here to this black and possibly just pull that back a little bit more. Maybe I'll sample my crate color and then make that darker. I have a feeling I don't think I have the right one selected, do I? I don't. It must be this one. So if I chose that, yeah, I can make that a darker brown. How many more colors do I have in here? And so by doing that, do I end up with a little bit more, a little less dark black there? And I could still play around with that a little bit if I want to, but that's feeling a little bit more evened out. One more thing I would like to do, just for sort of clarity's sake, I'm going to go ahead and put a backdrop on our crate and give it a color. And I'm going to do the same on all of our environment pieces here. They're taking up quite a bit of space in our timeline. And so I think that just in general, I'm going to pull all of these environment pieces up here. I think this may be some more of them. And we're just going to, not only are we going to sort of put them on their own backdrop, I'm going to also put them in their own composite node. Right? So we got all of these pieces here. Right? And so what I'm going to do is create a new composite node, drag this out here, and just one at a time I'm going to plug all of these in to it and break this. Oh, did not mean to do that. I'm going to do that. There we go. Unplug lumpy floor, plug it into composite. This will be clearer if I pull it down here. So basically I'm unplugging it. Oh, I think there's more than one here. And you'll know you have them all when they've all disappeared from our scene. And then I can just plug them right back in to this compound all the way in the back. Oh, what happened to our stars? Oh, so I think some of this is the sort order of things. So I need ground to be all the way back here and stars to be in the back, and then we'll just sort of sort these on top of them otherwise. If I look at my render, is it still rendering? Yeah, it's still rendering correctly. So even though I'm seeing some weirdness here, it shouldn't give me any issues. But I may still continue to unplug these until I see which is giving me. It seems to be these that I've labeled lumpy floor seem to be confusing it a little bit. So I'm just going to make sure they are. Anyway, they just all need to be on top of the ground. That's the only major thing there. And then big rock here should probably be there. Mountain should be behind it. Big rock in front of it. This big rock right there. So I may play around with this a little bit more and try to see if I can work some of that out. But now that I have all of that, I can put all of this up here, and again add a backdrop. And I'll probably do the same thing with the crate, put all of that into a composite node. Now if we do want this all to be under one peg, it's not a bad idea. I can do Control P here, and I'll show you why I would do that. It's a kind of a strange reason, but this will work pretty well. One is if I wanted to move the entire environment around in some way. Let's say I wanted to do an animation where the entire ground shakes or something. Then I have this peg that I could do that with and just animate it. But one of the other reasons to do that is now I can minimize all of that under the stars. Right? Peg here, and of course I could rename that whatever I wanted to. Same with the crate, and it's making my area here a little easier to maneuver.